Hello, quilters. I hope you are quilting while you're listening to that because isn't that the best part um, of the day is when we get to quilt. I've done a little quilting, but I am so far today, and I'm putting the finishing touches on today's 21 days from quilt top to quilted. So I have the chat on. You can leave a comment to let me know that the comments are working. Let's see. We usually do a weather report. So here in New York, it is cold. It is 27, going down to 18. But it's January. It's supposed to be cold, so it's totally doable. But my neck was cold when I was getting ready, so I threw this on. Literally for warmth, whatever. So I am resting and recovering from a weekend retreat where I quilted a lot and slept a little. Excuse me. See, still sleepy. I love going on quilt retreats. I can quilt at home, but there's just something special about hanging out with other quilters and seeing what they're doing and getting inspired by their projects and getting to learn about their lives and see who they are as people. And they're all delightful. So it was just a wonderful weekend. And I'm looking forward to another retreat. I'm going to be at Primitive Gatherings in Wisconsin this summer. And then I hope to have another quilt retreat sometime late summer or next autumn. Let's see, Janet. Hi. How's 55? That's cold in South Carolina. How's your finger? I hope everything's mending well. You're back to quilting, so I'm pretty excited to hear about that. Um, I am in the middle of basting another quilt, and that's today's step on 21 days from quilt top to quilted. So I still have the blanket fort quilt behind me, and that is the third one. Two are basted up. I have 3 more to do. But to be honest, I still have one to piece because it's still right here in my fabric pool. It was fun at the retreat seeing so many different blanket fort. I didn't realize so many people there had done the quilt. But it was seeing all the different colors and all the different arrangements too, because there's a lot of room to wiggle around in here. Like, somewhere there are 4 blocks, so you can switch it with another place. There are 4 blocks and you can just move things around, or you can twist your 4 patches in another direction, or you can twist your stripes in another direction. So it was really great to see other people's fabric choices. One woman came in saying, "Oh, my fabrics, they're too close. It's not going to look good." And it was positively vibrant. And there was another Christmas one there, and someone else changed their 4 patches because, again, a lot of wiggle room here. It was neat seeing the different borders that people were putting on. Um, Somebody put, and it's usually top and bottom borders to make the quilt rectangular. So I've been seeing a lot of people just repeat the top row, put a spacer border, then the top row, a spacer border, then the bottom row. And I saw one that was spacer border triangles in the corner, and then another one of the fabrics in a long swath. So it's just really great to see. Let's see more comments here. Loved that I went on a quilt retreat. I loved that I went on a quilt retreat too. And this hotel where we meet, there is a Panera in the parking lot, so we don't even have to worry about food. It's pretty awesome, and it's just a matter of getting to the ballroom downstairs and do your sewing. Hi, Sherry. It's good to see you here. Let's see. You're getting your stitches out tomorrow if you can get there. Lots of quilting things going on. Oh, wow. I hope you have time to get your stitches out and to give you more mobility and more healing. I think a lot of quilters, I know I do, have a funny looking index finger from various wounds over the years. Um, yeah, it's a reality. Beth, you have some extra fabric. You're going to add another round of the row with a 4 patch. Excellent. I think that'll look great. I I'm not a very precious designer, so I know some designers are like, "No, you have to make it the way I say to make it." I don't really care. This isn't anything hard. It's 7 blocks by 7 blocks, and mix them up any way you like, because there was room for that. And some of mine aren't put together the same way either. I switched some of the things on mine, probably unintentionally, but not all of mine are pieced exactly to the pattern. Um, So I can't wait to see pictures of that. Let's see. Sherry, you're going to make yours at a quilt retreat next week. That's lovely. Now I don't have a formal quilt retreat that I'm going on until July. Uh, the one I go to, they have one every month. I'm not going next month because I'll be visiting with mom. But I stay at my sister's when I'm visiting with mom, so my sewing machine is still packed in the hallway, and I'm just figuring out what projects I'm going to do. I think I'll be there about a week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on weather. Because driving in the Northeast, I might have to go a day or two early to avoid a storm, or stay a day or two late to avoid a storm. So anyway, I'm there over a week, and I'm going to make it my own personal quilt retreat. I will be talking to you probably from my sister's kitchen twice, because I can quilt and work where I am, and my brother-in-law can carry my sewing machine in and out. One of my friends at retreat suggested I leave a sewing machine there. And I'm like, oh my word, you're brilliant. And I did. It's called the sewing machine I gave my sister. So that's pretty awesome. Um, let's see. I'm going to use my extra fabric to make it bigger. You loved it. The one I'm basting right now, a friend of mine had a quilt, and she did a quilt and had tons and tons of extra yardage for the quilt. So I pieced the front out of it, and then I pieced the backing out of it. So it's like kind of back art. And I think I have another quilt I'm going to be doing back art on. This is my year of little quilts. So I'm going to be doing this one's 56-inch square, 60 by 72 is going to be big for me, except for when I am going to be putting out a class on different strategies for quilting a large quilt on your home sewing machine, like how you can quilt a king size quilt on there. So that will be a big quilt, but otherwise it's going to be a little quilt. Let's see, 65 in Florida today, loving the cooler weather. Nights are in the 40s and 50s. That doesn't sound like you'd need to have any climate control on. I don't think my furnace would turn on, and I just got air conditioning, but that's not going to be turning on till the summer. So that was why I was so cold last week when I was meeting with you. I didn't have a furnace. This week I do, but it's still cold because it's winter, you know. Yeah. Winter is my favorite of the seasons, but I could stand to be a little warmer indoors. Because sometimes you just get that chill. But I do love it when I see snow. Actually, that's not spring. Autumn is my favorite season. Then I would have to go with spring, then winter. I do like winter far better than summer. So of the two, winter is the favorite. I like the snow more than the heat. I've never tolerated heat well. And snow is pretty as long as I don't have to go anywhere. So there. Minnesota, 3 degrees. Yeah, kind of normal for you, but still kind of cold. So sorry about that. Ooh, gross. That's a little cold. That's when you want to stay in and quilt. So what do I have going on? Well, I'll start with what I made at the quilt retreat. I have a quilt that was a pattern. I'm not sure I sent them to my phone, to my computer yet. So let me just ship a few photos over. One. Getting there. 2. And let me find the third one. 1. Oh, this one. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be there eventually. Okay, I'll email this to myself, then I'll show you the pictures. I will be honest, I fell asleep in my chair, so I didn't get all this taken care of before I left. Before it was time to go live. Okay. So, yeah, I just kind of fell asleep in my chair, which is really, really sad. I don't like napping, and it was fun trying to get out of my chair. Not happening. Photos don't want to download. Let me see if I have them here. Oh, I know how I can get them. Hold on. I can show you them without having to go through all of this nonsense. Okay, I will show it to you. I'm going to come back to you. Where are you? You are here. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share that screen. Here we go. Okay, so today, let's start off with this one here. That is how much stuff I took to my retreat. 2 bolts of fabric, a bag, my sewing machine case, and my iron because I love my iron. One of my craftsy producers thought I should put googly eyes on it and give it its own seat in the car. But I have a little machine that's not a big Tudo bag. It's a little bag, like the medium one. But I put a little machine in it. So I put all of my fabric kits and my rotor cutter and stuff. And I have like a foldable cutting board in there that folds. It's half of it's a cutting board, half of it's an ironing board. So that stays packed with what I need. Thread goes in one outside pocket. I have a couple rulers. And then I throw in, like, if I need a specialty ruler, I always like to take my main rotary cutter with me because I like that one. So that bag stays packed. I usually take that tote bag full of my clothes, but I decided I didn't need to do my hair this weekend, wear makeup, and I honestly wore my work clothes for 2 reasons. Well, 3. 1, you look nice. 2, the ballrooms and public spaces are usually a little warmer than we keep our house, so I can wear lighter clothes like I do when I work. And 3, they pack smaller. So I was able to get like my computer in that bag, all my wires. And so I combined what I would normally have as like my backpack with my electronics and other things in there. So that was 2 bags in one. And then, yeah, we also discovered that you can take that if you're supposed to bring yummies to the retreat, you don't have to carry them with you. You just place an order at Walmart ahead of time and it'll be delivered to your hotel. So yeah, light packing because a friend drove me. That's the first quilt I made. And our best guess is that was from 2013. It was a block of the month. It might have started out as like one of those $5 blocks. Like you pay $5 for your first block. And if you bring it back in, they give you your second block, but you have to show up every month. This quilt was made to have 8 blocks, but it was a medallion and then it had like pieced borders and stuff. And I decided I'm just going to make those 8 blocks. So most people who looked at this went, "Whoa, you got that big white block in the center." And I did, but you and I both know that I'm going to quilt that in some way, so that'll be fun. And I didn't position the blocks. I just pulled them one at a time and took them. It was no organization in it because I don't do that. So I took my 12-inch blocks, made them into put it in 2-inch sashing and a 6-inch border. So this is another 56-inch quilt. But that was fun. It was fun getting that done. This was I'm going backwards, I think. There we go. That's the second quilt I made. Now, back in, I'm guessing around 2008, I bought this, and it was 4 yards of fabric, blue, white, black, and red. Yeah. 4 yards of fabric with 1 1/4 yards or 1 1/8 yards for the border. But it was a free pattern that a shop that I was teaching at back in '08 put in there, and there was enough fabric in it, but the cutting instructions were, like, so wrong. I cut the quilt and still had half the fabric left, so I had to math, but, in 20 when did I get married? I got married in '88, so probably in 2013, that would have been our 25th wedding anniversary. We went to Arizona. My husband wanted me to go to the Grand Canyon and see all this stuff in Arizona. And he arranged for his aunt and uncle to come with us, which every woman I mention that my husband invited his aunt and uncle on our 25th anniversary trip, every woman rolls their eyes just a little bit because, boys. But we adore his aunt and uncle. It's the only time I've been to their house in Phoenix, but her living room is a Coca-Cola, 50s Coca-Cola vintage, and so it has the red, the white, the black, and it has turquoise, walls. So, I purchased this quilt 5 years before I'd been to her living room, but this quilt is for her, so I will finish it and get that going. Then oh, wrong direction. Then I made this quilt, I'm in the subscription box for Primitive Gatherings. And in the December box, she gave 5 fat quarters. Now, I don't collect fat quarters. So I mean, I use them, but, I save them, but I don't collect them. So I didn't want them to just add in. I wanted to make a project out of them. And I looked online and I found a couple patterns that looked okay, but it was cutting like at 7/8 and you need to use all of the fabric. So there, you couldn't upsize it for a triangle. But then I said, oh, I have all of Terry Atkinson's books for Atkinson Designs for her fat quarter books. So I found one that the smallest size uses 5 fat quarters. So I added cream and black, and that's my quilt. My original goal for this, it's a throw. My original goal for this was to give it to the police station, but my sister claimed it, so it's hers. And let's see. Oh, before I came home, I did all of my homework. I took all of my scraps and I cut them up into 5-inch squares, which I normally don't collect, but I am going to be I'm going to be in the Unity quilt along for primitive gatherings, and I think we need 900 and some 5-inch squares. So I'm swapping with friends. The ones on the left, the top left, those are all swaps of charms. The ones on the right were the ones I cut from my fabric. Then I cut 2.5-inch squares for color blocks. I had enough of one fabric to cut two 8th yard cuts, which I use for cutie quilts. The ones at the bottom, a friend was there and she shared her 5-inch novelty fabrics with me. I'm going to be making I Spy quilts for my sister's grandchildren, for my niece and nephews. I have 1.5-inch squares and I have 1.5-inch strips. So I came home that night and I put everything where it belonged and nothing additional went into my scrap basket. So I was very proud of that. That was what I did at the retreat. So let me stop sharing and come back and say hello to you. So that was my retreat. Since I've been home, I have to admit, I started a new quilt because I needed stupid sewing, like even stupider sewing than something I had to do. So I saved my binding triangles and I'm putting all my blue binding triangles together into pinwheels. And I have a cousin's child who is going to the University of Pittsburgh and it's blue and yellow. So my binding triangles are in these, and then I'm going to put it with yellow color blocks. So I need maybe 10 more of these. I need a couple more blue quilts, then this will be finished. So I have all of the pinwheels in here. I did start a new quilt, which I didn't want to do, but it made me. So I don't remember why, but there's a quilt pattern called Streaked Lightning. It's kind of a traditional thing. And it is a combination of this and this. So it has bars of triangles and then bars of background fabric, and it's going in a zigzag pattern. So it's a combination of these two blocks. So you have this, 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 and then you go down here, this over. So I did sew up my extra triangles that didn't make it into the 4 of the same for pinwheels and sewed all those up. That was my stupid sewing from yesterday. And I'm also making some more quilts that are going to go toward the walking foot class. So I need more to quilt on. That's what I've been doing, which is why I didn't get today's lesson finished yet for the 21 days to quilt out to Quilted. I'm going to be talking about basting quilts. And baste your quilt any way you like. I'm just showing you how I do it with basting spray. Let's see. So we have, is this going to show? Johanna is from Brazil. Bem-vindo. You're cutting your batting today for the 2 quilts you're working on. Lovely. I'm basting, so I did have to cut it off the roll. I think the roll is sitting right there in my hallway. But it'll come right back in because I have 2 more quilts to baste. I just needed it out of my way. I have been tending toward 60-inch rolls of batting because most of my quilts fit on that. It's the size of my pressing station, so even if I need a larger quilt, I sew 2 of those together. So I work on a roll, cut it off, and it works pretty well for me. Let me see, the comments moved around. So that is the previous, but so far, so that's what I did at the retreat and what I've been sewing since I got home. what's going on in 21 days from quilt top to quilted. First day we talked about preparing the quilt top. Let me know, leave a comment or something if you have ever sewn your foot inside a popped seam while you're quilting, long arm or otherwise. It's a terrible feeling to have to cut your foot out of your machine if you've ever had those popped seams, or if you've ever had seams open up on the edge of your quilt. Like, we don't have borders on these quilts, so that seam could come open. This one here could pop open and pull back. So I had you, stitch around it and check for pop seams and other things. That's super not fun. The second day was piecing your batting. Picking your batting. And you can let me know what batting you chose. I typically use Quilter's Dream Polyester Select is what I'm using right now. I'm looking into Hobbs or Warm and Natural to see if I can get a 60-inch roll. It's the 60-inch roll that has me in love with it. I do love the batting, but I also love the size because it works well with everything I do. Let's see. Patty, you are cutting your batting today for your color block quilt. Janet, an open side has happened to you? I've had that happen. And I also had an open side happen where my foot got in it and I ripped the customer's border when I was long arm quilting. Fortunately, it was a friend. She had more yardage. It wasn't a problem at all, but I was nearly physically ill. I was so stressed and upset about that. So I know to take the time and to do it, and it's just going to save you trouble later on. Let's see, Sandal, before you started stay stitching around the quilt, you had pop seams. Exactly. It's just nice to prevent those problems. So again, for those of you who are established quilters, you might get a tip or two out of this 21 days. That's why I'm offering it for free. But it is some good things to go back to and good reminders. I am going to be talking about knots, and when we get into the quilting, you may get some more, there may be something that you get out of there. On your first one, you had a really bad pop seam that you didn't fix. Yeah, I've had that happen. I actually had it happen after I filmed that section, but we're not going to talk about that. It was one I didn't see. I thought I checked for it, but I didn't. Oh, well. I just know how fun it is to cut it out, and then you have to try to sew it back together by hand, and it just totally gets you out of the flow of machine quilting. So if you've prepared your quilt with, your backing and your batting and all that stuff, and prepared your quilt top, and everything's going well, then you can focus on the machine quilting without all of these other details throwing you off. You're like, oh my word, machine quilting is so hard. When the hard part that you're dealing with is the pop seam, the split seams, the batting, and, all different concerns of that. Okay, let's see. Go back and check your batting unless you missed something. The printed part dropped off in mid-sentence. Thank you. I will definitely go do that. I was prepping all of that, so I only had to turn it on over the weekend because I thought it was going to schedule, but it wasn't. Apparently, the platform schedules it at UTC, Universal Time 0001. Which is 7 p.m. in New York. So that's why it hadn't come on Saturday. So I will go back and fix that. Thank you for letting me know. Let me make a note of that. I have a little notepad. Whoops. What am I doing? Batting. I'll go do that right now. When I'm done here. Not right now. So thank you for letting me know that. I love having volunteer proofreaders. Some folks, I have designer friends who are like, oh, and they always let me know about a typo. And I'm like, please let me know about a typo. I'm just one person. Things can go wrong. I can get something wrong. So I do try to go back and make all of the corrections. I've heard that the coloring on the blanket fort, that the coloring of the diagram was a little hard to see the difference in the colors. So I will be going back and recoloring that, reshading that in between the blacks and grays. I will make it more, I'll make one of them polka dot or something. And to make it more obvious, I've heard that was hard to see. So I do go back and fix them. Just haven't done that yet this week. So thank you. I will go back and fix that. And after we do the basting, I think we're going to go, I think tomorrow's already done. That's going to be selecting your thread. and you can choose any thread you want. All of these suggestions are whatever you like, but here's my thought process around why I pick this one versus that one. And it's, the type of thread, the color of the thread. And I think I might spend a second day actually matching on thread, actually matching threads to my 5 quilts for you. But I think tomorrow's is already ready to go. So anyway, there's a lot of information to know before you start quilting, just so that when you are machine quilting, which we will do in this class, you're only focusing on the quilting once you get all the other stuff taken care of. So I will go and do some of that now. I will get right into that batting class. That's going to be my first order of business, and second is going to be to put today's lesson up. So thanks for following along. I will be here next week. Let's see, today is the 14th. Yes, I will still be here for the next 2 Tuesdays at 2:30, I believe. Let me check. I know I have a doctor's appointment coming up next week, and it is not in the way. So I will be here Tuesday the 21st and Tuesday the 28th. If you have questions on things that are going on in the class, go into Debbie Brown's Machine Quilting Studio on Facebook or contact me directly. I can't let questions in the class because it actually, since it's an international class, there are certain countries that having an interactive class is taxed differently than having a one-way distribution class. So just either get in touch with me with a question or post it in the Machine Quilting Studio on Facebook, Debbie Brown's Machine Quilting Studio, and I will get back to you. I'm just a simple quilter. I did not know that I was going to need to deal with the EU VAT, the taxes throughout the European Union. I didn't know I was going to have to deal with download taxes and conversations in classes taxes, the things that you need to know as a quilter. It's a lot. But we work through it together. That is why I put everything in a class form, and why I put it in a class form on that platform, because they handle some of the tax issues for me. So thanks for being patient with those issues. I will try to get through them, and you will try to get through them, and we'll get through them together to do what we love mostly, which is our quilting. Okay, I just saw something. Hi, Mary. It's good to see you. I'm betting it's colder. Well, I met you upstate. I think you're down here, but upstate is definitely colder. I haven't checked. My daughter lives 100 miles north of me, and it explains why we don't live 100 miles north, because she usually comes in with a little more snow, little less heat. It's pretty gross. Winter. So anyway, I'm going to go correct the class and start working on some details, but you can log into the 21 days from Free Motion to Quilted, from Quilt Top to Quilted. It's still free. And after the last day, then I'll put a $21 price tag on it. So if you have registered by then, you never have to pay for the class. It's yours, but it will for anyone after that. There'll be a price tag on it. Hi, Louise. I'm happy to share tips, and I look forward to seeing you at guild meeting this week. Carol, snowing in Ohio. Goo. No, not much fun. My son is a Buckeye. He went to Ohio State. And the 4 years he was there, he had like one snowfall that was 7 inches. But it was, a little snow here, a little snow there in Columbus. Apparently, that part of the state doesn't get a significant amount of snow. So I hope you are not getting a significant amount of snow, and that you're able to just stay home and quilt and ignore the weather anyway. So I'm going to head off and fix some of my stuff online and add new content. So check back every day to 21 days from Quilt Top to Quilted to get your new tips. And then I will be back again on Tuesday at 2:30 New York time with another update. So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.